Hi, I'm Ray, and you're with PhoneArena's Q&A. Pau the Bao has the following question. Do you think the Samsung Galaxy S5 will be made of metal? Well, a metal Galaxy S5 certainly sounds interesting, though as far as we know Samsung, the metal Galaxy S5 would still probably be made of plastic. But anyway, we do think that it's high time for Samsung to step up its design game and start coming up with something a bit more inspired and premium as far as appearance and construction go. Guarav008 asks us, what do you think about the supposed fingerprint sensor of Nexus 5? Will it have some new functionalities as compared to the Apple one? And what are your expectations from the device from a geek POV? Unfortunately, things don't look like there's going to be an actual fingerprint sensor on the Nexus 5, which is a pity, because we do think that the fingerprint sensor technology will eventually become a standard feature in smartphones and tablets. After all, who would want to enter a lengthy password or draw a weird pattern on their screen instead of just touching their sensor and having their phone unlocked? It's easier, it's hassle-free, it's faster, and at the same time it offers greater level of security. But unfortunately, as we said, it doesn't seem like the Nexus 5 will be featuring one of those sensors. A question by Kirhostov. Hi, do you think this is the end for HTC? Can HTC One Max save them, considering that the HTC One, one of their most successful phones, didn't? Thank you. Well, in my opinion, if the One didn't save HTC, then we have no reason to believe that the One Max will be able to do so. But the truth is that I don't really think that HTC's problem is in its products. Of course, there are some real issues there, such as the weak ultra-pixel camera or the blink feed UI, but I don't think that HTC phones are really that much inferior to Samsung's phones. I don't know what the real problem is. Probably it has something to do with marketing and communication with consumers. But anyway, I think it's great that HTC is building a phablet. Hopefully they'll manage to keep the size and weight in check with this one, because we know HTC's handsets tend to be a bit more heavier and larger, and I'm not really sure how this is going to work in phablets, but we'll see soon enough, hopefully. A user whose nickname I can never pronounce in a way that could be considered successful wants to know, Ray, which phone's optical image stabilization technology is better, LG G2 or Lumia range or Note 3? Actually, the Note 3 doesn't have optical image stabilization. The difference between the other two is that the G2 stabilization is just 2-axis, whereas the Lumia 1020 has a 5-axis stabilization. So basically, the Lumia 1020 has a more advanced stabilizing system, which makes for a more effective anti-shake functionality. By the way, the HTC One also has a 2-axis optical image stabilization. Garva Sharma has come up with a very interesting question. Ray, I want to know that it is really worth to spend a lot of money for a high-end smartphone, or do the cheap smartphones like Xperia M can do almost all everyday tasks? Well, there are some more affordable smartphones out there that can easily do most regular stuff, such as organizer tools, emails, apps, even most of the games. However, the problem there is that the experience itself, as a whole, is not as good as on high-end smartphones. For example, a low-resolution screen will display everything for you, but it won't look as good and will be harder to read. The camera will take photos and video, but they won't look as good as those made by a flagship smartphone. 3D games will probably run, but they may be laggy, and so you get the idea. But basically, yes, you don't need a top-shelf smartphone for most activities, though the overall user experience with a cheaper phone will not be as good. Xperia Fanzone has a rather personal question. What do you prefer? On-screen buttons or buttons on bezel, and why? Now, I will assume that you are asking me, so I'll give you my personal opinion. Personally, I prefer it if the buttons are positioned below the screen on the bottom bezel, because I don't like to have such a thick bar of my screen occupied by on-screen buttons, especially if they stay there almost all the time, even if I'm playing a game. So with these on-screen buttons, you basically have this very large screen that you can't fill with content, which is weird in my opinion. That's all for today's episode of the PhoneArena Q&A. Be sure to post your questions for next time below this video as comments or in our Q&A post over at phonearena.com.